First of all, I would like to thank all of you for participation and sharing with us this project. I will just give a very short introduction to our meetings this year. First of all, I will tell that the initiative of Tbilisi Cultural Diplomacy Academy started in 2017, when several European institutions like European Cultural Parliament, Soul for Europe Movement, Caucasus Foundation, Arts Research Institute, with invitation of Georgian National Palace, which are our host for last 4 years, signed the agreement and create consortium to start initiative in the frame of cultural diplomacy, but focused on the youth, focused on the young generation. And during this last 4 years, we invited representatives of more than 15 countries, and among our speakers, we have already some members from Soul for Europe. Our spokesperson founder Steve Austin already take time to give workshop in Tbilisi, already representatives from European Parliament, from European Cultural Parliament, and so on. And this year it's first time when we decide to focus only on a Soul for Europe movement, and mostly on a strategic group, because we decided to introduce Georgian young audience, Georgian youth people, who are the people who working at the Soul for Europe movement, and what could be shared by these individuals. Nicholas already have experience. He was at the palace. I think it's already 5 or 6 years ago. It was, I think, first experience to working with Georgian young people. But I think it's very important in this time of pandemic, already in this time of Euroscepticism. I think it's quite important to make the dialogue between countries who are in the European Union and countries who have ambition to join the European Union, and what we can share with our young generation about European values and what is Soul for Europe movement, because sometimes we find that not many people in our countries very well know about this movement, and sometimes they don't know very well what's happened in the European Union in different levels, on a people's level, not only just level of politicians, but on the level of citizens, because we discussed very often this issue about citizenship. But when we talk about citizenship, do we have in mind already the youngest part of our society? And because next year is dedicated to the youth in the European Union, I think we already will focus on this issue to next year, when we will have 5 years of our Cultural Diplomacy Academy. And I have very big hopes that pandemic regulations, if it still will be on, will give allowed to bring most of you to Tbilisi for face-to-face meeting and to have more open discussion with our young people. Today we have 3 speakers, and tomorrow we will have other 3 speakers too, 2 from Soul for Europe and 1 from Georgia. And today I would like to present our colleagues and old friends from Soul for Europe movement. And I will start with Giusy. She presents Italy, and she for a long time working at the Soul for Europe, working maybe not good word, but involved, let's say, in Soul for Europe. As well, Nicolas from France, and Mahir from Turkey, from our direct neighbor country. And at the beginning, I said that we have now positions that 2 of us, we are from non-European countries. Me and Mahir represent Georgia and Turkey, and Josie and Nicholas, they present European Union. And I think it could be already interesting discussion, because when we met during the Soul Forever meetings, there is no, we don't realize this issue. We don't realize that some of us out from the European Union and some in. We discussed everything on like from one unique space who shared the same values, and during such meetings it's quite important. But now we have opportunity to listen your presentations of your work and your thoughts, and already focused somehow to talk about Soul Forever, because my aim is to start real promotion, not very good word, but to give more information to Georgian society about Soul Forever, who already 16 years do his best to bring different European individuals together and to discuss hot issues, and how we can now bring these ideas outside from European Union, or directly how we can bring these ideas outside from Berlin. And next year, if we do first time a Berlin conference in Spain, like the pilot project, maybe already will be interesting how we can already manage during the year several meetings in other countries, for this case in Georgia, to introduce our values and ideas what we have in Soul Forever. And first I will give panel to Josie and then to others. The floor is yours.
Hi. So shall I start as a first from Soul for Europe? I thought we had okay. So I don't see many of you because you don't have your cameras on. So it makes it a bit difficult to talk to a screen with only names. And since we are not so many,
we can ask. Maybe we can ask them to switch on the cameras.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but this was supposed to be in person. So then at least we see each other. So I'm based in Milan right now. So you're seeing me from snowy Italy. And I have a short presentation about a Soul for Europe and how we have been working, let's say, as Levan was saying, in the last few years. So I do realize that maybe not all of you are familiar with the idea of civil society, of active citizenship, of all these, buzzwords that we hear all the time, but it's not so easy to put them in place, like to actually see what they mean. So now I'm gonna share my screen if I can.
Yes,
I have
yes, you can.
the option. Yes. And you're gonna see a short presentation. There are gonna be some videos in it, so you're not gonna get bored, I hope, by it. Do you see my screen? You should see it right now.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
we see.
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So I started by saying, okay, what is it, civil society? Because as I said, it's not so easy. It's not something that you hear every day, or something that you're so familiar with. So I tried to put it together as like, if society is a pyramid where, at the bottom there are citizens or active citizens, then civil society is in the middle with the EU institutions that are at the top. So when we say, this bottom up, that's what we mean. We mean, like from the very bottom of the pyramid, so where we are standing, to the very top of the pyramid, where the decision makers are, where the policy makers are. And civil society is somehow in between, is a link that is trying to connect these two layers that apparently are very far away, but actually is not that far away, especially now that we can use technology and digital connections to actually put together these two layers. So this is just an introduction to how we are placed. Let's say it's a marketplace, it's benchmarking to put it in other words. So how do we try to do it? That's the point. How do we try to connect the bottom to the top? We do collect the ideas. And here is the first short videos that I would like to share with you. This is the workshop that we implemented in Belgrade a few years ago, and it was meant for students and for young people exactly to do what I meant before, like to try to collect ideas from the bottom of that pyramid that I showed you before to the very top of the pyramid. It's a 3 or 4 minutes video, so I hope you can hear the sound. And this is like, yeah, just an example. Can you hear everything? Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to show you an example of how, we try to use creativity in order to engage, let's say, the younger generations, the young people, as we say, in something that we think it's quite complicated otherwise, because, if we, already I would say that already for professionals and adults, it can be difficult to deal with concepts like civil society, active citizenship, and how to connect, citizens to European institutions. Those are not easy ideas to share and to be part of. So with this workshop that I just showed you, we try to involve very young people in a creative way, but with those 3 phases that the videos also showed you, it was like, okay, let's see what we actually think, what we dream about, what can we, the dreaming phase was very much about really let's not think about what's possible and what's not possible. Let's just think about what we would like. And then when we started imagining it, we thought about, okay, what of those dreams can actually be implemented? And that's where some projects came through and some ideas that were more pragmatic. And then we had the acting phase, the last one that you see. And that's actually when we went to the conference, to a Solve for Europe conference that was held in Belgrade, where policymakers, local, national and international policymakers were present. And we had the chance of presenting, of sharing those ideas and those projects, just to say, okay, you know, we might be young, but we do have some ideas and we do have some maybe solutions to solve some of the problems you are talking about. So this is how we, as Solve for Europe, engaged young people using creativity. And then as I'm going forward, you'll see more examples of this use of creativity in order to engage young people. I think creativity is good also for elderly, but just like in this case, we used it for the younger generations. So yeah, as we said, we engage. We also had workshops with young people for the European Capital of Culture, when like Ravenna was actually a candidate, and we were invited to do something like I just showed you we had in Belgrade, but for Ravenna, like a small city in Italy. And the idea was like, okay, what do young people would like to see or have in this city? And we collected these different ideas. The idea of making like these small magazines is because it's very easy to make and very fast and quite cheap as well. So it was a good method. And then we actually went to the city hall and presented again those ideas that came up from the younger generations to people who were actually making and taking those decisions. So as I said, we use creativity as a tool and not just as, you know, something to talk about or something that only artists can do. Everybody can be creative. So this is an example, for instance, of when we went to Sziget in Budapest, and we had this workshop. It was called Be Creative, because it was about being creative, but also active citizens, as I said. And we stayed there for the whole length of the festival. And we were giving festival goers an opportunity to actually sit down, do something fun, but also think about Europe and think about what they would like to see in this Europe. So again, we put together one of those small magazines. Actually, we put together a few of those small magazines because many people took part in the workshop. And it was fun to see how many good ideas came up. So we try to collect it. So that's how we do it. We are going to where we used to go, I have to say, where young people go, because now with the pandemic, we are not so, let's say, able to go everywhere we want. And we really appreciated those times where we could, where we were free to go anywhere. So right now we are not doing those workshops. We are having these online kind of presentations, which I realize are not the same, because imagine if we could be there together in presence and do something like I'm showing you now, and then maybe present it this afternoon, or actually for you is already afternoon, like tomorrow, to a bigger audience. That's the power of creativity, let's say. So we also went to Lollapalooza, another festival where many young people go. We went there for a few years. These are, last time was 2000, I think maybe 18. We went for another time, and then everything kind of stopped. But we had pictures, and we actually, try to ask young people their opinions and their stories. So this is a much longer video, so I can maybe just show you a little bit, because I think it's around 6 minutes. This is a Lollapalooza festival in Berlin, and we had a stand where a lot of other NGOs were there.
Presence?
Free traveling.
No borders. A lot of different cultures.
I want to say two words: freedom and burden. Yeah, freedom and security.
I think the first word is like connection.
Integration.
Cooperation. No borders.
Unity. I think of some kind of greater good.
I would say culture.
Yeah, Brexit was coming up.
I think it was a very unfortunate decision.
I think it's sad because almost half of British people didn't want this.
Yeah.
So that's not very fair.
It's very democratic, but there is a lot of people that will be hurt of this.
I used to live in Cyprus and I was there when they joined the European Union, and I remember it being such a good thing to be a part of, and I remember everyone being so happy. But I also just generally, it seems good to work as a collective, and things like climate change, which are really important. It's easy to work as a big group of countries.
That is so stupid because the main part of the people who didn't want to be in Europe anymore were the older ones, the old people. And I think the younger ones have the problem now to not be in Europe anymore.
It will divide
And
generations.
the younger people who mostly voted for staying in the EU will have to manage with the problem of leaving it.
It's not nice. It's not something that you want to do. Obviously, you want to stay united as a union, but a unit only works if it's really working together. And England would have differing views, and if you can't change the rules of your own country, if there's an unelected Europe working, and I think maybe it does work for other countries, but I think for England, what we prefer, or like what the majority of us voted for, was kind of independence, and I think that's what it boiled down to in the end, was sovereignty.
This is a signal definitely to change something in the way how Europe is governed. So it's also a good thing from that.
The most European moment in my life was the exchange program to the Netherlands during my study program.
Oh, the most European moment in my life when I when I visited the European Parliament in Brussels. It was very nice. It was so awesome.
Well, maybe silly. Maybe being here, we are from Holland and we are in Lollapalooza Festival with people from a lot of different countries being together at one festival across the border without difficulties.
The open borders are very, very cool. I think that's so nice to be kind of welcome in every country.
Yeah, maybe the moment where first time I was going from one country to another without even realizing it. And then afterwards you reconsider what happened and begin to think of it as a miracle. Right?
I think it was really kind of like after the attack of Charlie Hebdo, and all the European politicians were standing in a row and going to a march. Maybe kind of that to show yes, we are kind of a group, something like that. I think that this was a really European moment.
I think they are doing quite well.
I would say listen more to the people, to the citizens, and not that much to other politicians.
Speak less, act more.
Definitely to reduce bureaucracy and to make the whole machinery more transparent.
Think low and don't be afraid.
I think because of the Brexit, it is a very tense team now, and we have to be careful that the countries are not getting more divided.
I think it could go that way, so there could be more countries exiting, but I think that also, if it does work out badly for Britain, they definitely will not want to exit. So it could ultimately make the unit that is left very much stronger.
Kind of dark, but I think that we will make it.
I hope that it goes well, obviously, but I think it is a lot of work.
The states of Europe can succeed very well because there are many strong countries and a strong community.
And I think it's very important that other countries work together and try to reach goals that they can reach there alone. But I think definitely people here would it. It's always going to be that culture hub, even if the economy does suffer.
At the moment, my home country is Spain because, see, I grew up half of Spain, and until my 9th year, I was in Armenia. And then until my 18th, 9 years in Switzerland. And now 10 years in Spain. So I'm not really sure which is my home country. I think home country is where you live, where you feel at home.
So I preferred, to show you a few videos rather than talking a lot. First of all, because my colleagues are also going to talk after me. And second of all, because I thought that maybe, this would give you an idea of how we actually do things in real life when, real life is possible. So then once we collected ideas, or we listen, or we try, also to foster and to support people sharing their opinion, their ideas about Europe, or about what Europe is doing and how it is doing. Then we also promote the exchanges of good practices. Like this is an example of the Berlin conference that actually we just had also this year on the 9th of November in a hybrid way, where Levan had the chance of inviting us, by the way. So there is always we always try to put together good practices to inspire other people and to share also what's going on the local level in an international environment. So this is an example of how we do it, for like by showing, by promoting it online, of course, but when we have a chance of having a conference in presence, then we also have real exhibitions going on. And we also try sometimes to invite the people we meet at these events where we are going to actually come and talk by themselves and give their opinions directly to the policymakers rather than being asked to report in them. So yeah, we connect people and networks. This is, for example, how we're doing it in Berlin. And we discuss challenges like, if someone comes up, for example, now saying, oh, how can culture survive with the pandemic and with this also shrinking of funds and resources available, but also people that are struggling, let's say, in the cultural sectors to survive and to go day by day right now. We try to discuss that and or other challenges that are coming up, and we do try to share the results. So, for example, this is our tweet account. I would really encourage you people to follow us all for Europe on social media. We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn. You can just find us and follow us, and then you can be up to date. So by way of conclusion, I thought it was something to share. In the end, I wanted to share with you actually a little piece of my fridge, my refrigerator, which every morning reminds me that this is my word. So we either shape it or someone else will. And I think this is a very powerful message for young people, especially because you are in a moment of your life where you are deciding where you want to go, how you're going to do things, how you're sorting out your personality or your professional career. And whatever you decide to do, I think it's important to know that you do have a role in this society. And it's up to you to choose what role you want to have. If it's just, by reading the news, or if it's participating, or if it is criticizing, or if it is changing it. So that's what A Soul for Europe in a very large way tries to do, and it tries to do it in a very inclusive way. So this is like, I hope I didn't use too much of your time, because I was a little bit afraid of the long videos, but I tried to give you, let's say, an insight or an overview about what A Soul for Europe does, with a specific point of view on the younger generation, or on the youth part of A Soul for Europe. So I don't know if you have questions, or if you want to keep them for the end, or if I can help you any other way, or otherwise I give the word to my next colleague.
Okay, thank you, Jose, very much. I think we will do all questions at the end after all three presentations, and maybe we already will have discussion between each other. And now I would like to ask Mahir to join our conversation and just underline what I tell before. The situation what we have now, we faced with realities that some of European Union member countries discussing about the leaving European Union. We already have the example of Brexit, and this kind of skepticism it's a process. And same time there are countries who would like to join European Union, and in this case Turkey and Georgia, it's countries who have ambition to come close into this big community. And I think this is very important for us as Georgians to hear observations about European Union as well as Solve for Europe and activities which going in Turkey from our neighbor country, and Mahir presented Turkey. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Levan. Actually, it is discussable right now if Turkey is now keen on getting into the EU, but it was at least like 20 years ago, and yes, and I as a dinosaur member of Solve for Europe after Juicy, I'm going to go back to 20 years ago, even 30 years ago to start with. So I'm actually the founder of an Istanbul-based non-profit organization, which was founded in 2003. I'm also one of the first strategy group members of the Solve for Europe, which was founded just a year after our association was founded. So I will start with a very short history, what happened before in Turkey and at which point we were, so that I can tell you about our activities, how we took part in the cultural policies, in the building of new cultural policies and in cultural diplomacy in Turkey, and connected with the Solve for Europe activities. So the cultural policies until 1980s in Turkey were very much state-driven, still serving to the same nation building policies we had for the new founded Turkish Republic in 1923. So were the foreign cultural policies. By its foreign cultural policies, Turkey wanted to present itself towards outside as a modern Western country, mostly exporting the production of its state's cultural organizations. This was like 30 years ago. From the end of 1980s, when the economy in Turkey started to liberalize, the state started to withdraw itself from the cultural arena, and this gap was started to be filled by the private sector banks or many of the large-scale industrial companies. They opened cultural centers, galleries, established philharmonic orchestras, and organized festivals. So in both decades, before 1980s and after, unfortunately, there was a very restricted space for the independent cultural actors to flourish and grow. Once it was state-driven, then it was private sector-driven. In the beginning of the 2000s, the candidacy of the Turkey to the EU was the main issue on this agenda, and it changed the situation. But the relations with the EU were, until Turkey's official candidacy to EU was declared in 2004, was based on legal, political, economical issues only. Culture was not mentioned at all. So as we established our association at that point, we held a conference which for the first time brought the subject of cultural aspect in the Turkey-EU relations. In order to draw the attention to its importance, to the importance of civil society dialogue and the role of culture in EU-Turkey relationships. We invited to this conference EU officials, Turkey's foreign ministry officials, as well as intellectuals, writers, curators, and academics to discuss on this issue. It was the first time. Turkey's EU integration was, of course, impossible without building mutual relations between the civil society. So in that sense, we as an NGO, actually a very small NGO, this was the initiative of a few people working in the cultural sector. We took, in a way, the role of the making cultural diplomacy, which was not yet done by neither the Turkish side nor the EU side. Actually, our intention was not to take over this function of making the cultural diplomacy, but to use this mutual need to, in order to generate for the local independent cultural actors some resources, because there were no resources for them. After this first move, our second move was to build a working group among the national cultural institutes of the European countries in Turkey, which are like British Council, Goethe Institute, Italian, French cultural institutes, and some consulates which were active in the field of culture. It was, of course, not easy to bring them together. They had different policies and different management structures. But actually they were interested because Turkey was a candidate country and it made sense to work together as these cultural institutes. After 2 years of steady monthly meetings, we succeeded to organize all together a very big music festival on Istiklal Street, one of the main streets of Istanbul. It was like a fanfare festival in France. It was on the same day as it is in France. And there were a lot of participation, thousands of people on the streets, and then it took a lot of attention of the press in Turkey. We were almost in every newspaper, in every television channel. And that was like a declaration of starting this process at very civil level, with music and dance and celebration on the street. But actually our aim was to build bonds between these partners of this platform, and also to build relations with our local institutions like the municipality and the city governor's office and so on. So because, you know, in a public organization, you need to collaborate with all those parties. And after this success of being on press and everything, all the partners were really very motivated to go on with this European collaboration to organize joint events. But actually, our mission was not necessarily to organize festivals. After this first move, our second move was to build a working group, to organize, to open a website, a web platform, which served as a media to network Turkish and European independent cultural actors. In 2004, social media has not yet existed, so this portal served like a Facebook page for Turkish cultural actors to get in touch with European cultural networks, get informed about the scholarships in the EU, artists in residencies and projects so that they could contribute. The third move was then an organization of a cultural management program. It was a capacity building program for professionals working in the cultural field. It was a 4-month intensive program, again organized by this same working group of the European Cultural Institute, but also in collaboration with 4 universities. Almost every cultural organization in Istanbul and Turkey was involved in this project by assigning their spaces and assigning speakers and some resources. We invited also many guests from Europe to share their expertises and experiences with their Turkish colleagues. At the end of this program, the participants decided to collaborate to change their own circumstances. These cultural actors who were taking part, they were organized at the end. Now, after 15 years, I see the influence of this program on the formation of today's cultural sector in Turkey. Those participants are today in high positions in organizations leading the sector. Then in the following years, we, with our larger community of these cultural actors, organized forums every year in collaboration with our European partners, European cultural networks. Just before this cultural management program, I took part in a 4-day training in Felix Meritis Foundation in Amsterdam on international cultural cooperation strategies. This was a program ran by Felix Meritis Foundation over 2 years to network, in order to network cultural managers from all over Europe. I had the chance in this training to get to know many very interesting colleagues working as I do in their own local environments in different countries, like from Siberia to Portugal. This network was named People Network. And this program was actually the inspiration for me to organize the cultural management program the way I organized it, in a collaborative way and to network. It wasn't just a training, but it was mainly to organize and to network all these actors. And after a year, I received a letter of invitation from Felix Meritis Foundation. I was chosen as one of the participants of the first Berlin conference for European cultural policies in Berlin, and it was named A Soul for Europe. This conference was something really extraordinary. The participants were a mixture of high-ranking European politicians, such as the President of the European Commission, German State President, many MEPs, ministers of culture of almost every European country, European intellectuals and European cultural managers who were a part of the People Network of Felix Meritis Foundation. Surprisingly, the format was totally different than what I expected. Normally, you know, the politicians come, speak and go, and in that event, they were one of our dialogue partners sitting at the same panel and discussing with us how European cultural policies should develop in the future. In this conference, Jose Manuel Barroso, the president of the European Commission, has officially declared that culture should be a priority in EU's policies for its integration process. So Berlin conference was planned at that time as a one-shot event first, but this success led its organizers to organize it for a second time. And in the second conference, we, the cultural manager participants, were asked by the organizers if we would like to turn this into a more sustainable organization and if we would like to establish a strategy group to further organize Berlin conferences and also local forums in our own countries and cities. That was how A Soul for Europe was established. Then this strategy group grew and changed form within years. Every strategy group member organized forums in their home cities, Nicola in Lyon, in Istanbul, Dejan in Belgrade, Rarica in Cluj, Yuri in Sofia, and in many other cities for example, in Portugal, Czech Republic, etc. The Solve for Europe strategy group since then played a very important role in my local work. The members of the strategy group were involved almost in every international activity that we organized in Turkey. I was also involved in many of the ones organized by them. So we became a group not only to think how European cultural fields should develop at macro level, but also how these strategies can be implemented in our local environments, and to think collectively really how the forum in our local environments should be organized. We thought together, we designed together the events, and that was a great input for our local work. And of course, the connections of the European politicians to join these meetings, and of course, European intellectuals and cultural managers. So each forum was actually like strengthened by the existence of a Solve for Europe, so that we appeared to be strong at the international level, and that was impressive for the local actors and attractive for them to be a part of it. In 2006, then, Istanbul was chosen to become one of the 3 European capitals of culture in 2010. During the preparation process, our association also took a role, the role of strengthening the independent cultural actors. Actually, the first European Capital of Culture office was established by the civil society itself. It wasn't a very top-down thing, but it was occupied by the like the main big cultural institutions and other institutions. So it didn't seem to me like an open space for independent cultural actors to have a voice and to take part in it. So our association tried to organize, we organized forums and trainings and so on for the local cultural actors to learn about the process and to exchange, from the past European capitals of cultures, and to exchange experiences and so on. So the result was actually, or our aim was for the cultural actors to become aware that they shouldn't be waiting for the funds that others are going to, generate in the European Capital of Culture office, but they should be an active part of it. They should be proactive in getting in and being an active citizen, proactive citizen. That's not the end of the story, but it goes on like that. It is and dark. A Solve for Europe has always been, during the 2010 European Capital of Culture of Istanbul, we organized a very big forum, and this time the aim was to involve not only cultural actors, but and the public authorities or the politicians to think about, envision about the future of Istanbul and the future of the role of culture in the society and in the policies, but also the private sector, who has a strong voice and a strong role in the cultural field in Turkey. So it was important to give them the, raise the awareness that all these actors, the civil society, the public, and the private sector has different roles, but they should not work independently, but all together in order to envision our future and to contribute to a common vision, not to their individual visions. So that's at the moment what I wanted to say. I will not connect it to the pandemic right now, but later maybe in the discussion I can tell about how we are going on today and what challenges we had in that sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahir. Thank you very much. Now I would like to ask Nicholas to join our conversation. Just to underline that we have a quite long experience working together with Nicholas on a different projects in France and in Georgia, and he visited many different cities too in Georgia, and he knows very well environment in our country. We didn't hear you.
And now, was it better? No, huh?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, good. Okay. Yes. I've been several times to Georgia, and I hope to come back, of course, in the future. And just to tell you a few words about who I am. I am for more than 20 years a cultural manager. I've been working a lot in the theater field and running a project between France and Georgia. Welcome a lot of some visitors from Georgia to France. But what I would like to share with you is more part of my actual practice, which is in the coordination of a European-wide project, not in the theater field, but rather in the music field. I will talk to you both as a manager, as a cultural manager, but also how my participation to the Soul for Europe initiative for, I think, 15 years is influencing my professional practice. I have a first question for the students. Are you here, students? If you're here, react, do something, open your camera, make a sign, I don't know. Open your microphone. Yes, a heart, that's very good. That it means you are there. So I have a question for you. If I say early music to you, what does it mean? What is early music for you? You can search on the internet, of course. Huh? I see we also have a music expert with us, Yuri. So maybe Yuri can tell us what early music is for him.
I think Yuri not here.
He's listening, but I see. So maybe Mariam, you sent us a heart. Can you tell us what early music is for you?
You asked me.
No, Mariam, but Maria too, of course. Okay, Mariam left. Well, okay, I will give you the answer. Either we will stay the whole day wondering what early music is. Or maybe, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Huh? You raise your camera on. Saha?
Lana.
Lana, okay. Bonjour, Lana. What is early music for you?
Early music? I don't know. What to say, how to explain it. I don't know, for real.
Good. But it's quite easy, and you know it, and you will give me an example, because early music is Renaissance, medieval, Renaissance, and
maybe
Baroque.
Mozart, like Mozart or something.
Mozart is almost yes, almost. It's
maybe it's music like 17th, 18th century, I think.
Yes, it's more 17th, 16th, 15th.
Yes, like early music, I think that.
Vivaldi, for example, is very well known. He's more into Baroque music. You know Vivaldi?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Good. And Giusy knows Vivaldi personally. All Italian people knows him personally. Well, I'm not an early music expert, but I'm at the moment working in the coordination of a project that is called Emerging Plus, which is a EU funded project, which is led by 9 partners from across Europe, and I will show you a map of Europe and of the projects. Up. Where is my map? There it is. So you see, this is a project which is run by 9 partners. They are the yellow points. So in York, in the UK, in Ambronay, in France, Toruela, which is in Spain, Pavia in Italy, Opatia in Croatia, Athens in Greece, Wrocław in Poland, Riga in Latvia, and Göttingen in Germany. And it's a project that is supporting the professional development of young talents, young music ensemble in early music. So as you see, that there is a diversity, a geographical diversity of partners, but also not only a geographical diversity, but also a size diversity, because the partners are very small institutions, one-man institutions like the one in Croatia, to very big institution or half-big institution like Ambronay, where I work, which is a venue where there are about 20 people working. And there is also a very big venue in Poland that is a partner where there are thousands of employees. And I just said we are supporting young talents in early music. So we are more specifically supporting ensemble of young musicians. Ensemble means from 2 to 9 musicians. Young means from 23, 24 years old to 30 years old. And we are supporting a total of 20 music ensemble at the moment, which means 80 to 100 musicians. Supporting those young musicians, they are all very good young professionals, very good interpreters. They have an excellent knowledge in playing music. I can show you some photos of them. I will send you a link to a video. Here they are. So you see there is this ensemble, Better Quartet, this other one, Caladrius, Camerata Chromatica, Cantoria from Spain, Cembales from Germany, Fido Barocco from Italy, Into the Winds, La Palatine, Palisander playing flutes, and Sarbacane, which is also playing wind instruments. So as you see, they are all bright young people playing some sort of unusual instruments, because early music is often played in instruments from the past time, so which are quite how to say that exotic for us today. And the way we support those young people is not to make them better musicians by itself, but it's more to support the beginning of their career. which means that what we bring them is to offer them time to work together, so residencies. We offer them trainings, not artistic musical trainings, but rather management trainings, communication trainings, also how to behave professionally when they will be touring. We are also offering them more visibilities towards the presenters, towards people that are organizing festivals, towards music venues. We also offer them some support towards more innovation, which is also something important for us. And we also try to foster a community of artists. And I'm insisting on that because, as you will see in the next step, it's rather important for us, this notion of community. And when we started this project, I would say like 7 years ago, we felt that the music market is a very competitive market. Also in Georgia, music is not only pop music, it's not only rock, electro music. The classical music is of course extremely important. Also, folk music is of course in Georgia much more important than it is in France, for example. And early music is also some kind of market, some kind of industry, which is not, it is part of the classical music industry. And it's a market which is not that big. Not that big means there are not as many people listening to classical music than people listening, people listening to early music than people listening to classical music. So it is a music that is not that well known and by an audience yet. So this notion of competition is important, but we wanted somehow to bring the young musician not to be that much into the competition, but rather to be also into a more cooperative approach of their professional life. Other values are for us the importance of international mobility for artists, not just to stay at home, but also to move internationally, or at least to be connected internationally. Also to be more open toward society, and when I mean society more concretely, it's where you live. It's not it's of course the society in the broad sense, but it's also the places where you live. And also, so basically, I would say the main idea was for us to promote the identity of a musician, or what it means to be a musician. It's not only to perform towards in a big concert hall, towards a very big audience, but it's also to be an active citizen as a musician. And of course, when I say active citizenship, it already connects with what Giusi and Mahir already said. I posted on the chat a link to the website, and I will post also a link to the Facebook page if you want to have more videos or to have more information about the project. The videos are quite interesting to look at, not only because of the quality of the music, but also to see how lively those people are. And when I say lively, it's because I'm moving to the next point of my presentation, which is about the COVID time and how international connections may exist in COVID time, especially when your project, when what you do is about being connected internationally. So I have a question again for you, for the students, but also other participants. In your idea, when our countries were being closed, now what impact could it have on such project as the Emerging, which is an international cooperation? how do you think it had an impact? Nana, maybe, because you are the one who turned on your camera. Sorry for that. But if Anna, Andrea, Mariam, Lade, Anna...
I have not any idea about this. I will think, but realize I cannot say now. But
well, just tell us, share with us, how do you think such situation and the pandemic situation had an impact on international cooperations? What barriers does it create for you, or did it create for you?
Pandemic the pandemic to bad news and everything about any corporation and organization, but in this situation I don't know the solution about this.
For example, I think we can make a lot of friends with international cooperation. What else? I think it's such a good experience to communicate with other countries because we share our experience, we share our culture to each other, and I think it's also interesting to know, to study something new, to know something new that you didn't know yet. What else? Also, I think we will be more close than we are now, because when you meet someone face to face, you can know him very well, a lot well. When you, like now, no one else can turn on their cameras, turn on the voices, and you can't see people. But when you meet people face to face, it's more good. So pandemic, it's hard now to communicate with others because we get a little bit lazy, I think, in this way because of pandemic. What else? I think that's all what I want to say.
I think it also had big cultural impact on Georgia because tourism and stuff like that is not well enough for our country because people are not able to come here, because when they were coming, we were exchanging our culture. We would know more about tourists' culture and they would know more about our culture. So it had a big impact on economic situation, for example.
Yeah, I agree with her.
Yeah, thank you for your inputs. Are there other ideas about that? No? But I think you for me, in relation with our project, I think you said it all. But Mariam, bonjour. You wanted to continue? No? No. Okay. No, just to tell you, yeah, you said it all, I think, somehow, because basically when your project is about offering some residencies abroad, it's about supporting international mobility, it's about, I mean, bringing a foreign culture, if I can say so, to another audience. Of course, there is a direct impact from the pandemic on such projects. And just to tell you also, so we were not able to organize residencies, international residencies. We were not able to welcome people in the cultural venues, which were closed. I don't know how it was in Georgia, but it was the case in many European countries. So you could not welcome the audience, you could not welcome the artists. Also one very strong aspect was about the moral situation of the people, and I would say words that might interest Mahia, it became some kind of existential crisis for the musicians also, not being able to perform, and also not being able to perform means not being able to meet an audience and somehow positively confront your creation towards the people. So on such project where there are, I would say, about 100 people involved, one of our main challenge in the pandemic time, and maybe it will come back again, was to keep maintaining exchanges between people. As you said, we could not meet physically, but how can we meet as we do now through video, through audio, video, through Zoom, through Teams, etc. And that was extremely important for us also to know what the situation for the others was, because it was quite impressive to see how it started in Italy, and our colleagues from Italy were telling us we have this problem, we need to close the theaters, etc. And then it went to Austria, and then etc. So that was really a strong moment. And then we had to tell the musicians, we cannot welcome you. You cannot move to this country. So the other challenge was about in the management, if I can say, how to adapt our activities since they are based on traveling. And the third challenge was about how to drive the creativity and the creative energy of the people, especially the young musicians, not to fall into despair, but rather to drive this creativity to build future opportunities, because they were in some kind of creative dead end, if I can say so. I remember one of them saying, we can rehearse because we live in the same city, so we can meet, but why should we rehearse since all the concerts are canceled? So that's from that there was this kind of existential crisis. And the way we reacted to that, and that's somehow the main lessons we had from this crisis, from this situation, is that we created much more connections than before. So much more connections through those online tools. We knew them already, but it became some kind of daily routine to call colleagues, to call an ensemble, just to know how people are doing, just to know how the situation is going. We also found that we needed to have a more inclusive governance in our project, because basically at first it was more about the partners of the project, but now we try to be more open also to the ensemble, not only to telling them we are supporting you, but just to also be more welcoming to them in the management, in the understanding, in the governance of the project. So somehow we try to run it together, both the partners and the beneficiaries running the project together. Also, what we try to achieve is to be, as I already said, some kind of strong community, strong in the sense of our capacity to face such a difficult situation. But also, it's not about reacting to the situation. It's also our capacity to innovate in the field and in the sector and in the music industry will come from our capacity to exchange together, to care about each other. And that brings me to the last point, that we observe some kind of lesson. It's more something for our project, but we see that it's also happening in the music field. is to have a more ecosystemic vision. Ecosystemic means that if you are organizing a festival, you do not consider that it's only the festival that is important, that your festival depends only on artists. It depends on also on volunteers. It depends on your funders, etc. So you need to have a strong, vivid ecosystem. And one of the challenges in early music, it's also in classical music, for example, is the audience, which is getting older at the moment. So how, if the presenters, festival organizers want to have an audience in the next 10, 20 years, they need also not only to support young musicians, because there are a lot of young musicians, but also to find some ways to integrate future audience, young people, into their vision of their daily work. And just to conclude, what I shared with you is a very, I hope you concrete project and the way we reacted towards the situation. And as a coordinator of this project, my daily work has been much influenced by Soul for Europe and by the people of the Soul for Europe. So Levan, Mahir, Yuzi, Eve, and they helped me understanding not what I should do, but how to behave, how to react. So it's some kind of how to say that they learn me how to behave positively, to be more, as I said before, active as a citizen and as a cultural professional. Voilà.
Thank you, Nicolas. I think it was 3 very interesting presentations, and all of them was very different, which is, I think, very good that Mahir focused on the history of Soul for Europe and his activities and already European Union and Turkey relation. Jose shared with us experience working with youth, which is very important, that Nicolas gave his example of the project, already included some very important issues and values, which is very common in situation of pandemic. But I would like to come to you with a question, which is for me, it's very important because I think we still need to think about this. One way was shown by Jose how we're working with the youth, training them, sharing with them some experience, but I have in mind already, and it was quite important after our last meeting, what we need to do, how we act in future to involve younger generation into the activity of Soul for Europe. Because we already faced with situations that 10 days ago we received a letter of Hassamer when he explained us that he leave movement. It means that we face with the process that now we have situation when generations is changing, and maybe tomorrow more and more people will leave, and we need to find out how we can involve younger generation to become part of the ideas of the new Europe and of the ideas of all the cases which we keep during this last 16 or 17 years. How we can make synergy of all members of strategic group to bring this, let's say, values into different countries. You think it's too hard to question it? Nicholas, maybe you start.
I think well, for me, this is an important issue, as you said, Levan, not only for Europe, but in general, how to open the space. And I think it's not maybe that complicated. It's as we do it now. It's to involve young people into the conversation, younger people into the conversation. And this is something that is, for me, one of the lessons from also for Europe. It's also how since the beginning it was open to younger people, and which they were in the very first meetings that I participated to. They were put even in the front and supported by the older ones for that. So definitely there is a need to, well, a need, I don't know, but we need to, involve. Involve means not only to invite, but it's also to support the ideas and to be supportive towards young people.
Mahir?
I mean, there was I mean, in A Soul for Europe, as you know, there was a discussion about this. My opinion is that like the people who are culturally active and who already have ambition to organize cultural activities, who I call cultural leaders. Actually, I think they should be our target group, not anybody on the street, because if we want to achieve a better result, we have to find local people who are already engaged in doing cultural activities, who have audience and so on, and who can lead other people to become cultural leaders, so that we have an impact and multiplier effect. So of course it's a choice. We are, I don't know, 50 people. Each of us can influence maybe 50 other people. But if those 50 people are also leading people in their own environment, they can also influence maybe 50 others or 100 others, so that it goes by multiplier effect. Otherwise, we can just influence not so many people.
Yes, thank you. Josie?
I was actually about to, I'm going to send it in a second. I'm putting in the chat box the links to A Soul for Europe social media, because talking about influencing, especially during pandemic, I think the online channels are to prefer right now. I mean, there is not much we can do at the moment. So of course, the how you say, spreading the word, and as Mahir was saying, also involving other people and talking about it. Also, these kinds of events where we are, exchanging ideas and presenting our project help a lot. But since we are still in a pandemic and we are not going to be able to travel as freely as before, I think social media or engaging online is also a way forward. And of course, I think it's also normal that people are changing, like what also Nicola or before Levan were saying. In our organization, there is a refresh of people and of energy, I would say, and I think it's totally normal, like in any other job or context, like at school, at the university, everywhere. So, of course, we always need young people, or we need new people. don't need necessarily to be young. It can also be just new and interested and committed. But I was saying before, Yves was raising his hand, and I'm not sure if what he wanted to say was related to something Nicola or Mahir or I was saying, and I didn't want to miss that out. So I'm just going to send the links in the chat box about Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So you are, and then I will give the word to Yves if you had something to add.
Yeah. Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm going to talk tomorrow, but I just wanted to say something today. I am probably one of the very youngest members of ESOL for Europe, even if I'm not so young. And one of the things is, I think taking part into an organization or setting up one's organization is a way to build your own tools, to create your own life. So it starts with a group, becomes an association, then it develops into an organization. But you can also take part into an organization, and maybe at the beginning there will be old people and they will speak a lot and you won't say a lot, but you will listen and you will understand what you want to do with this place. An organization is always something you can use or transform. And I encourage you to find places or find organizations you want to get involved with, especially if they are going with values that you are comfortable with, or where you see perspectives for your practice, whatever practice it is. And I'm telling you this because I'm just now 3 or 4 years in ESOL for Europe. And for the 3 first years, I wouldn't do anything because I don't understand. I just understood that they were involved with Europe, which was what I was involved with too. So yeah, so we as Solo for Europe, we might reach out and have a lot of people, and some are very silent and some are less silent. But maybe there are other organizations in the places where you are, where you can get involved with. It's important to find these places. This is, you have families, you have maybe schools, and there are other organizations, and I'm sure you will find yours. So that's just what I wanted to say about, so I don't know if ESOL for Europe, but anyway, that's what I was saying. Maybe you can join also ESOL for Europe, and we will come to your, we would be so happy to meet all of you. So already thank you for being here.
Thank you, Yves, for intervention. Is anybody from speakers? Yes, Nicholas. You need to, yes.
Following what you just said, I think it is important. For me, what I learned, especially in recent years, and maybe also because of the COVID situation, I don't know, is that the personal relations, the interpersonal relations are extremely important. And as Yves said, following about ESOL for Europe, it's not always, it's important to feel good in a group, and to feel that even if you are not that active, even if it's actively following things, even if you are not leading the group, you have to be with people you feel, with whom you feel good, and that you think you are sharing some values, and that and the notion of group is for me extremely important. And the group is not about, for example, one thing I learned from the COVID is that I don't want to follow conference anymore, where you are just there to have a coffee with some people, but you spend two days listening to people you don't remember afterwards. So I want things to be more into being into a real exchange, dialogue, constructive meetings, and not only to listen, but be more active and feeling good with the people. So being good, feeling good with the people is rather important for me. And this is what I think A Soul for Europe, this is one of the forces of A Soul for Europe, is to be a group, an open group, a dynamic group of people, and not just pretending to be, but being.
Okay.
I also find it very important, Levan. This is what Nicola said. I mean, that is what we officially call community building, rather than just being in a working group. A working group and the community is totally different from one from the other. So yeah, I mean, to become a community is important. It doesn't matter how big the community is, but it should give the feeling of belonging to each member of it.
Yeah, maybe what Nicholas mentioned just now, pandemic gave us chance to rethink and just to evaluate it, some values, and make something more important and something less important. And maybe after pandemic, we will be more careful making decision where to go and where to take part, and to spend time in more, let's say, I don't know, rational or emotional way, which better to call this decision. Maybe I can ask now participants if they have any questions to our speakers, and we can just open such kind of questions and answers part, if there is any. I didn't see any raising hands. Is everybody very shy to give the questions? Or? Okay, then I have question to Josie just regarding the presentation, and already about the development of the trainings, because listening you, I think that maybe we need to think how to bring and how to make strategy series of workshops in different countries, and how to bring all these ideas closer to the young people in different communities.
Are you asking me?
Yes, yes.
Well, it's a very, how you say, challenging question. I mean, it's also not the easiest one, let's say. And if I had the perfect answer, I would probably sit in the parliament rather than at home right now. But I do think that sometimes we need to make, and people participating into this session can maybe confirm that, or tell me why I'm wrong. But I think we need to make difficult or complicated ideas into something a little bit more simple, like something that we can express and that we can convey in a very direct and simple way. Like my approach when I started being part of A Soul for Europe, I was also part of the younger people representing Europe, and it took me a while to understand what A Soul for Europe and what civil society in general was doing pragmatically, like in real life. Let's say it's okay, when you talk about these topics, but when you try to imagine what's happening on a certain territory or in a certain country, then it's a complete different, I think, it's a complete different question. So my advice would be, of course, to bring together people again and do something, like what I showed you in the videos, something that can be creative and that can allow people to brainstorm about what's important in the countries, in the local context, and how they can actually play a role in communicating that to the people who are making the decisions. Because what struck me in the beginning was like, okay, it's nice to talk about all these very important topics, and I agree with almost everything that has been said in our conferences. But what if we are just talking among ourselves? What if it's just a chat among friends, and then we don't get any results? So I think when we talk about including young people more, or including, refreshing, let's say, the energies in our network, we do need to pay attention of what we bring to a certain local context. Like the famous, you often hear people talking about think global, act local, like this kind of mottos that sound very promising, but then you think like, what is it in reality? Well, a Soul for Europe is something like that. It's something that you think on a global and local level, and you also act on a global and a local level. So it is not something so common, but if this pandemic, allows us, I would go back to the people, and I would try to start, doing those workshops again, and then collecting those ideas, and especially after collecting them, sharing them, whether it is online or in person. But I do think it's important to, collect and share. That's my business. Not easy.
Maybe we can start thinking to organize such kind of trainings in our region too.
Yeah.
But everything to make in the frame of Soul for Europe, and maybe we can make a series of trainings in different countries, and then invite selected young people to Berlin conference, and just gave them floor. Maybe this will be already one of the ways how to integrate them.
Yeah, but well, what you have seen in I don't know if you remember the first videos, I can also like check where I have that magazine, because I have it printed out somewhere here on my bookshelves. But the idea of that magazine, the first video I showed you, where we were actually making, with a typewriter, and it was called the Dream, Imagine, Act workshop. The idea of that workshop in the very beginning was to make one of those magazines for every conference or every country a Soul for Europe was active in, with a different cover. So we started with the light blue, and then we wanted to have the whole, range of colors in order to have all these little magazines all together. Like you would have, I don't know, the light blue was for Belgrade. Then imagine, we were going to Amsterdam, the yellow ones, and then we were going to Tbilisi and have a pink one, and then going, to Rome and have a blue one. So I have all different covers from those magazines. I have a kind of, collection of all these young people ideas coming up into different places. But then unfortunately, we weren't able to support that project going forward for many different reasons. But I would be happy to take it up again and doing it, because as you could see, it's quite simple. It's a very simple concept. Everybody can take part in it. You don't need to be an artist. Of course, if you know how to draw, it's easier. But we developed this method with a typewriter and with the old magazines in order to make collage and to express it, let's say, your ideas, not in a long academic paper, not in a beautiful drawing, but also in a somehow in between. So yeah, I would be happy.
Yeah. Yes, I hope we can start working on the planning for next year.
And then we take it up from Belgrade and we go on.
Yeah, and I would like already to come to Nicholas and say that I hope very much that next year we can manage to bring back ImageGU in one of the regions of Georgia, because as we talk, we have this multi-ethnical region where experience of ImageGU and run some workshop and create some performance might be very, very important.
It would be very nice, of course. Ready to work.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And if still we have not questions from audience. I still...
Can I just grab some of the magazines I was showing you? Just wanted to show you in real life. This is what we made at Siget, for example, that you've seen in the videos. And I wanted to show that to you just to show you how easy it is. It's like a magazine that is printed on an A4 and then folded. So that's all we did. And the contents inside were decided by the people who took part. So it is something that, you know, this is the one that I also showed you that we made for the ECOC, the European Capital of Culture. And inside, you see inside, we put this little booklet, which is called, which we named Recommendation for Our Europe. And then there is really like every page as a recommendation from someone who took part in the video, in the workshop. And we put it together into a little booklet that you can actually take out, that was made for the policymakers, you know, like, okay, if you're not interested in the whole process, you take the little booklet.
Take the small one.
Take the small one with the recommendations and take it with you. So, and it was done, you know, for the Europe Day in Ravenna. So that's to say that we really try to come up with many ideas to make it easier for politicians to listen to us. What we need is the feeds, you know. We need the ideas. We need those contents to then deliver the contents to the politicians, and that's where we need you. Like we need anybody, people.
Yeah, maybe listening to you, I was thinking that in new planning for these workshops, I think it might be important to add in last day of the trainings meeting with stakeholders and gave open space to teenagers to have the direct discussion with stakeholders on local level or federal level. This might be already very good experience for them to study how to talk with them.
Yeah, and that's exactly, by the way, what we did here. What we did in Ravenna was exactly that. We put together, you know, young people. We had different ideas together, and then we really summed them up into a small booklet with a recommendation for each page to give to the stakeholders. So that would be perfect if we can do both the creativity and the recommendations. Otherwise, we just talk. So fun.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
I think
yes, Mahir.
Yes, I want to just point out, go back and point out that community building issue. Like one-shot events have of course influences, but in order to catch that feeling that Nicola is talking about, I mean, a feeling of belonging and feeling yourself well in the group that you belong to, it needs time and a series of activities and working together and collaboration together. That is how a Soul for Europe got its soul, didn't it? So my experience in the cultural management program that I have mentioned before in 2004 was such an event that we had a series of events, and at the end, all together, all those participants organized a forum together. And at the end, all these participants, some of them who did not know each other before, they became a community and they started influencing the cultural policies of the country even, because they each had their own communities in field of theater or film or visual arts and so on. So that they united with their emotions and feelings built up this community, which was not maybe an entity which was an NGO or something like that, but that strong community of friends, they started influencing the cultural policies of the country even, or it didn't mean maybe influence the cultural policies of the state, but it shaped up the future scene, the cultural scene. And that is what I also experienced in Sinop, where we organized since 2006 a local, I mean, it isn't a local, it's an international art biennial, but organized in a very local and actually simple way, because that city of Sinop in the northern part of Turkey is at the Black Sea coast, is a really poor city which doesn't have any economy, or which is at the moment not at the center of the neither economic scene nor cultural scene. There we started in 2006 a biannual where we invited artists from Turkey and from Europe, but the work they produced there in different art fields were all participatory. So they did not bring their ready works and perform there, but they produced the works in collaboration with the local people. So there was collaboration at different levels. In the organizational level, because there was no money, we had to organize it just with the power of the people and what they had in the hand. And of course, the municipality and the institutions were also involved, but they also they don't have money, so they have to contribute like in kind. So this collaboration creates a soul of togetherness and belonging. And that belonging is not necessarily just at local level, but everyone who comes to this biannual, after working together, feels himself or herself as a part of this community and a part of this city. And the important thing in that is that we have been organizing it since 2006. This year it is the 8th edition, and we have members now who have been taking part in 2006 in a children's workshop, and now they are one of our organizing team members, you know. So that made those children to grow as citizens who take responsibility for their city. So this biannual is not necessarily as a showcase of art, but the art is kind of an instrument for local development, of raising awareness and to discuss on local issues. That's why artists come with ideas, but they develop their ideas according to the local needs and with the local people together. So that way of building community has influences at local level, but also at international or European level, because those local issues, for example, that rent economy, I mean money, policies, neoliberal policies based on just money, but not on people's well-being, is one of the main issue in the entire world. But this is also, it has of course reflections at local level. So every local problem is actually a part of the global problem. So when the international artist group work with the local community there and pick up the problems of the local society and open an artistic discussion or discussion in an artistic way that influences also each artist who is or audience coming from abroad. And they take them to their own country, and as of course artists mostly work in their own way. They once they start developing something somewhere, they go on with alternative productions in other countries. So so it has like an impact and a multiplier effect on many people and to the civil society at the wider level. So yesterday we had the opening of the 8th Synod Biannual. This time, because of the pandemics, we could not be there in Synod. So we decided to reflect upon our past 7 editions and to archive everything that we have done so far in an online platform, and also to discuss. That's why we called it upcycling. So to discuss on the relevance of the works that have been produced before nowadays. And so yesterday we opened this platform, but also opened the biannual, the series of online talks and events, which will be the reflection on the impacts on the society, impacts on individuals, artists, local people, and so on, during these past 15 years. So you are all welcome. Sorry that yesterday there was a technical problem. Not everyone could get in. It was our fault. But we have already sent emails to you to see the opening, and you are welcome to watch the following events. I'm writing to the chat the web address so that everyone can follow this online biannual, even if you are in Georgia or France or anywhere else.
Thank you, Mahir. I think it was a very interesting conversation today, and tomorrow is the same time we will have another representation, and I suppose already will be interesting discussion. And thank you all of you for your time and for your participation. I hope was raised a lot of interesting observations, ideas, and I'm sure that we can follow some of them with each of you, what we can implement during the next year, and hope with post-pandemic period we could be more intensive in let's say practical projects to bring people together and to have more discussions and involve them into ideas of open society and bottom-up and their very active participation of the building of their own countries, to give them more feeling of citizenship, and from just idea to citizenship to become an active citizenship. Thank you again very much for your participation, and hope see you tomorrow if you will have time.
Thank you for sharing your ideas and knowledge. Till tomorrow. Bye.